She screamed shut up and blocked me for this reason, then threw away 9 years of friendship. She screamed shut up, fuck you, and left the call. Just like that. 9 years of friendship, gone, because of a band she has already seen 3 times in the same month. And before you ask, no, I am not leaving out any important context. That is genuinely what happened. The silence after she left that voice chat must have been something else. The kind of silence where everyone in the call just sits there for a second, not quite sure what they just witnessed. That specific kind of quiet where nobody wants to be the first person to speak, because saying anything out loud would make it real. You could probably hear breathing. Maybe someone shifted in their chair. Maybe someone unmuted themselves and then thought better of it and went quiet again. And then slowly, one by one, the reality of what just happened would have started to settle over everyone like a cold fog. Someone you cared about just detonated herself out of a conversation over a holiday suggestion. That is not something you process quickly. So let us go all the way back to the beginning, because this situation has layers, and you need to understand the full picture to truly appreciate how wild this whole thing is. Our narrator here, a 28-year-old woman, was planning a group trip with her friend group to Butlins. Now for those of you who are not from the UK, Butlins is a holiday camp, and their adult weekenders are known for being loud, fun, slightly chaotic events where you get together with your mates, have a few drinks, let loose and just enjoy yourself. Picture it properly. A big open venue, drinks in hand, everyone singing along to songs they have known since they were teenagers. The kind of uninhibited joy you only get when you are surrounded by people who are just as committed to having a good time as you are. The whole point of going is the shared experience. The laughs. The energy. The headline acts that get everyone on their feet singing along to something they know. That is the entire premise of the trip. It is not a sophisticated cultural event. It is not meant to be. It is meant to be fun, and loud, and memorable for all the right reasons. Now within the group there is one friend, 26 years old, who has a favorite band. And she absolutely loves this band. That is completely valid and nobody is criticizing her for having taste. The problem is that this band is, by pretty much every description given, a slow, melancholic, deeply emotional indie group. The kind of music that is beautiful in the right setting, maybe a quiet evening at home with the lights low, maybe a late-night drive on an empty road, maybe a theater or an intimate venue where the atmosphere matches the mood of the sound. You can imagine the kind of act they are. The sort of music that asks something of you emotionally when you listen to it. There is absolutely a time and a place for that, and that time and place is not Butlins. Multiple people who heard about this even commented that they had no idea why Butlins had even booked them, because they are that out of place compared to the usual vibe of those events. Even people completely outside of this situation looked at that combination and immediately understood the mismatch. What makes this even more important to understand is that the friend herself has described this band as depressing. That is not our narrator putting words in her mouth. That is a direct description the friend has used for her own favorite act. Think about what that means for a second. She is not under some illusion that this is universally appealing music. She knows exactly what it is and she loves it anyway, which is actually fine. People love sad music. People find comfort and meaning in music that other people find heavy or difficult. That is a completely human thing. But she likes them for deeply personal reasons, reasons that clearly do not translate to a group setting, which is completely fine, but even she acknowledges they are not exactly a crowd hype kind of experience. And yet the expectation was that 4 people should build their entire holiday around seeing this particular act on this particular weekend. That 4 other human beings with their own tastes and their own excitement about the trip should just set all of that aside and agree to watch something that by the organizer's own admission is a bit of a downer, in a setting built entirely around energy and communal fun. Our narrator did what any reasonable person would do. She looked at the other available dates and suggested one that had acts everyone in the group could genuinely enjoy. The Venga Boys. The Hoosiers. Scouting for Girls. Peter Andre. If you know any of those names, you are already nodding, because that is exactly the kind of cheesy, feel-good, everyone knows the words playlist that makes a group trip actually fun. These are acts that fill a room with a specific kind of energy. The kind where strangers end up with their arms around each other belting out a chorus they last sang in a secondary school common room. Nobody in the group listens to the friend's favorite band. They listen to some of the music specifically to give it a fair chance, sitting down and genuinely engaging with it rather than dismissing it outright, and they found it boring. This was not a snap judgment made in 5 seconds. They tried. They gave it a real opportunity, and the honest conclusion was that it was not for them. That is a completely reasonable outcome and a completely honest one. They came to the table with open minds and left having formed a genuine opinion, and the genuine opinion was that this was not the music for a Butlins weekend. And here is the part that I keep coming back to, because it changes everything. This friend has already seen this band 3 times. In the last month alone. 3 times. They are a local band, which means she can go see them again anytime she wants without any special planning or travel or inconvenience. She does not need a Butlins trip to access this music. She can check the local listings next week and be front row at a venue 10 minutes from home. Our narrator even said directly that if this had been a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, if the friend had never seen them before and this was her only chance to experience this band live, she would have gone along with it happily. That is actually a really generous and self-aware position to take. She is not anti the friend enjoying her favorite music. She is not trying to take something away from her. She is just pointing out that there are 3 other people on this trip who also deserve to have a good time, and who are being asked to sacrifice their enjoyment for something the friend can already access whenever she wants. I am going to need a moment here. 3 times in 1 month. And she still wanted to rearrange everyone else's holiday around a 4th viewing. I cannot. So the suggestion was made. Nicely, by all accounts. A calm, considered proposal offered in good faith, the kind of suggestion that comes from someone who is genuinely trying to find a solution that works for everyone. Let us go to a different weekend with acts we all enjoy. And the response to that reasonable, group-oriented suggestion was an immediate screaming meltdown. Not a disagreement where she pushed back with her own reasoning and explained why this weekend mattered so much to her. Not a negotiation where she tried to find middle ground or asked if there was any flexibility. Not even a frustrated but still civil pushback where she said she was disappointed and needed a moment to think. There was no ramp up. There was no warning sign. No change in tone, no sharp intake of breath, nothing to indicate that the conversation was about to become something else entirely. 1 second the conversation was happening normally, and the next, at full volume, shut up, fuck you, and then she left the call. No warning. No build-up. Just instant detonation. Like a switch had been flipped somewhere deep inside her and the only available response was to blow the whole thing up rather than sit with the discomfort of not getting exactly what she wanted. After that, our narrator did not retaliate. She took a breath, chose the high road, and messaged the friend privately. She tried to explain, calmly and diplomatically, that this is a group trip and 3 other people need to be considered. That is an incredibly mature thing to do after someone has just screamed obscenities at you over a holiday discussion. Most people would have walked away at that point, and no one would have blamed them for it. Instead, she tried to open a real conversation and give the friendship a chance to recover. The friend's response was passive aggression. Sarcasm. Laughing emojis used in that particular way that is not actually funny at all, just dismissive and contemptuous. The kind of response designed to make the other person feel small and stupid for even trying to communicate. She called our narrator rude, even though the only thing our narrator had said about the band was that their music was a bit of a downer, which is barely even a criticism, and which the friend herself has said in stronger terms on multiple occasions. She called our narrator a bad friend. The entire tone of her replies was designed to make our narrator feel like the villain for daring to suggest that a group holiday should consider the group. It was a performance of victimhood from someone who had done the screaming. What makes this extra frustrating is something the friend said herself about a previous Butlins trip. She went with another group of friends, the acts were not to anyone's taste, and the result was that the whole group just stayed in the apartment the whole time and found it boring. She described it as a waste. She said it out loud, unprompted, as a piece of relevant personal history. She lived through that exact experience and came away from it knowing, in her bones, what it feels like when the acts do not match the energy of the trip. She had that information. She carried it with her into this very conversation. And yet she was willing to put her own group through that exact same experience, not just willing, but actively furious at the suggestion that they should avoid it. The self-awareness was there for every situation except the one where her own preferences were at stake. That right there is the part that tells you everything. She has the lived experience to know that a mismatch between the acts and the group's taste ruins the trip. She just did not care about applying that lesson when it was her preference on the line. The empathy only runs one direction. Eventually, she did not just end the argument. She ended everything. She blocked our narrator on every platform available to her, cutting off every possible route for the conversation to continue or for any reconciliation to happen. And then she deleted, or as the post describes it, nuked, their shared Discord server. A server that presumably held years of conversation, inside jokes, shared memories, trip planning, photos, voice chats, all of it gone in an instant because she was angry that a group holiday was not going to be redesigned around her personal music taste. Years of digital friendship history, wiped out in what must have been a few angry clicks made in the heat of a moment she chose not to walk away from. It is hard to even comprehend the deliberateness of that action. Deleting a server is not something that happens by accident. She made that choice consciously, in the middle of her anger, and she followed through on it completely. 9 years. 9 years of friendship, and this is where it ends. Over a band she has already seen 3 times this month. Okay, I genuinely had to put my phone down for a second. She nuked the server. The whole server. That is not a reaction, that is a demolition. Now let us talk about the verdict here, because I want to be very clear about where I stand. Our narrator is not the asshole. Not even slightly. What she did was completely reasonable. She proposed a group-friendly alternative for a group trip. She listened to the music first before forming an opinion. She acknowledged that if the circumstances were different, she would have been willing to go for the friend's preference. When the situation blew up, she stayed calm, she tried to communicate, she gave the friend every opportunity to have a real conversation about it. She did everything right. The friend, on the other hand, treated a straightforward group holiday discussion like a personal attack on her identity. She screamed and swore and hung up. She sent passive-aggressive messages designed to make our narrator feel like a bad person for having the most basic possible expectation, that a group trip should cater to the group. She leveraged 9 years of friendship like a weapon, essentially destroying it as punishment for not getting her way. And the wildest part is that what she wanted was not even a compromise. She wanted everyone else to sit through an act they have no interest in, on a trip that is literally designed for fun and shared enjoyment, so that she could see a band she has already seen 3 times recently. Here is what I genuinely believe. A 9-year friendship that can be ended by one conversation about holiday planning, where one person behaves calmly and the other behaves like this, was not as solid as it appeared. Real friendships can survive disagreements. They can survive one person not getting their preferred option for a group trip. What they cannot survive is one person deciding that their preferences always come first, and that anyone who suggests otherwise deserves to be screamed at, blocked, and erased. The friendship did not end because of a band. It ended because this moment revealed something that was probably always there. And as painful as that is to realize, our narrator is genuinely better off knowing it now. Mom's 60th birthday book is being ruined by her new boyfriend and his lazy AI poem. 9:26 p.m. A woman is turning 60 tomorrow. Her daughters have spent time and love and effort putting together something genuinely beautiful for her. And right in the middle of it, a poem arrived that no human being ever felt. And look, I want to be fair here, because the intention behind sending something is not nothing. But intention alone does not make a gift meaningful. Stay with me, because this one gets complicated. So here is the full setup. A 25-year-old woman and her sister are planning a really thoughtful gift for their mom's 60th birthday. They reached out to friends and family with a beautiful idea, a memory book. Everyone was asked to contribute a short personal text, a little anecdote, a favorite memory, something that means something, along with a photograph. The whole point was to create something handmade and human, full of genuine moments and real feelings from the real people in their mom's life. You can picture the sisters sitting together, maybe at a kitchen table, maybe texting back and forth late at night, carefully wording the invitation so it felt warm and inviting and easy for everyone to say yes to. They probably spent more time than anyone would guess just making sure the ask did not feel like homework. Because they wanted people to actually want to do this. That is not just a gift, that is an archive of love. Now the mom has a boyfriend. They have been together for about half a year, so he is relatively new to the picture. He is around 70 years old, which the daughters acknowledge right away, noting that his relationship with technology and his views on artificial intelligence are probably different from theirs. That is actually a really thoughtful and generous framing on their part. They are not walking into this story assuming he is careless or dismissive. They are extending real good faith before they even get to the part that bothered them. They are trying to understand him on his own terms, which is more than a lot of people would do. They are not assuming he is malicious. They are giving him the benefit of the doubt from the very start. What he sent was an artificially generated picture of the two of them, which, pause on that for a second, a generated image of two real people who are actually in a relationship, and a lengthy artificially generated poem about their mom. Not a photo he took of them together. Not a candid shot from a dinner or a walk or any ordinary moment they had actually shared. Not words he sat down and thought about, not even a rough draft he typed out and then cleaned up. A computer simulation of both the image and the sentiment. Sent as a contribution to a handmade memory book full of real photographs and real handwritten feelings from people who have known this woman for decades. The mismatch is not small. It lands with a kind of quiet thud that is hard to fully articulate but very easy to feel. I just want to sit with that image for a moment. An AI-generated picture of two real people who are actually dating. That is a level of surreal I was not prepared for today. The daughters, to their enormous credit, did not immediately call him out individually. That would have been the easy thing to do, honestly. Instead, they sent a message to the whole group, framed gently and inclusively, reminding everyone that the whole point of the book is that it be personal and real. They explicitly said it does not have to be perfect. A memory, a little joke, a quote, a lyric that reminds you of her. They made it as low pressure as possible. You can picture them drafting that message carefully, reading it back to each other, softening a word here and there, making absolutely sure it did not read as an accusation. Because they were not trying to embarrass him. They were trying to give him a quiet, dignified, no big deal way to simply redo his contribution. They handed him an easy exit. No drama. No spotlight. Just a gentle redirect dressed up as a general reminder. His response was not to take that graceful path. He replied saying he had sent their mom various AI messages before, that she likes it, that it is typically him, and that the picture is also AI but it is fun. He said this plainly, without embarrassment and apparently without any real consideration of what the sisters were actually asking for. Essentially he acknowledged everything, explained that this is just how he does things, and moved on as though that settled it. There is something almost fascinating about that response, not in a good way, but in the way that you keep turning a strange object over in your hands trying to understand it. He did not seem to register, or perhaps did not care, that the book itself had a clear intention behind it that his contribution was working against. And here is the thing that I think is the emotional core of this whole situation. The daughters know that their mom has received AI-generated content from this boyfriend before. Letters, poems. And here is the key detail: she loved the thought behind them. Notice that specific phrasing. She loved the thought behind them. Not the poems themselves. The thought. There is something quietly heartbreaking about that distinction if you let yourself sit with it. Their mom sounds like a warm and gracious person, the kind of person who searches for the love inside any gesture and holds on to it. She probably read those AI poems and thought, he was thinking of me, he wanted to do something nice, and that part is real even if the words are not. That is a generous way to receive something. But her daughters know her well enough to understand the difference between what she says she loves and what would actually move her to tears. A real message, however stumbling and imperfect and grammatically questionable, carries a weight that the smoothest generated output simply cannot replicate. Because it cost someone something. Time, vulnerability, the risk of not finding the right words. That cost is part of the gift. This is not about being anti-technology in some abstract sense. This is about a specific book, with a specific purpose, full of specific human memories, and one contribution that does not belong in that context. Now let us talk about whether our narrator would be wrong to push back on this. She would not be the asshole. And I want to explain why with some precision, because I think the nuance here actually matters. The book is a curatorial project. Our narrator and her sister are not just collecting submissions, they are building something with an intentional character. They get to decide what fits within that character. Asking a contributor to provide something that actually fits the project is not controlling or rude. It is producing the gift they set out to create. If someone submitted a recipe to a book of love letters, you would not feel obligated to include it just to avoid awkwardness. The harder question is about the boyfriend specifically, and what exclusion might cost. Our narrator is clearly thinking about this carefully. She does not want him left out entirely, because he is part of her mom's life now, and her mom would probably want him represented in something like this. That instinct is kind and right. But there is a real difference between being included and being included on your own terms regardless of the project's purpose. What she could do, and what I would actually recommend, is go back to him one more time with maximum warmth and minimum pressure. Something like, we really want you in this book because you mean something to her, and all we are asking for is one real sentence from you. It does not have to be long or clever, just yours. Most people, given that kind of sincere and gentle invitation, would step up. If he still refuses and insists on the AI version, then she has her answer, and choosing not to include it is a completely reasonable editorial decision. You cannot force authenticity. But you can create the conditions for it to happen, and she should try that first. The final word here is this. A 60th birthday happens once. This book is going to sit on a shelf for decades. Every page is going to be something her mom can pick up and feel loved by. The AI poem, no matter how technically impressive or how many words it contains, is the one page that nobody felt when they made it. No memory lives there. No voice is behind it. And when her mom reads through that book years from now, surrounded by the real words of the real people who love her, she deserves for every single page to have a heartbeat. The boyfriend has half a year in this relationship. He has time to build real memories and real words. He just needs someone to show him why that matters more than a shortcut. And if he still will not do it, then the shortcut does not belong in the book. So drop a comment below and tell me which story hit you harder today. If this was worth your time, a like and a subscribe would mean a lot.